Racing is a form of art, and just like there are many great artists, there are a ton of bad artists. In the cutthroat world of racing, you must be on your A game at all times, but even still, somehow a few truly horrendous drivers still manage to slip through the cracks, miraculously advancing through the pipeline and making it to the highest echelons of racing, yet despite being completely and utterly worthless behind the wheel. From the lower leagues to the big show, these are the top 10 worst drivers of all time in the NSDCA. Number 10. Jonathan Wong. Now I know what you're thinking. Wong just appears to be your run-of-the-mill Mountain Dew Cup Series flunkout. What makes him any worse than the scores of drivers who have appeared and disappeared in the series? With his 2 DNQs and a best finish of 19th in the 5 races he did make, what exactly puts Wong onto this list? Well, in those 5 races, he had 2 sub-30th place finishes, including Season 3's race at Road America, which would be his final career start, and a last place finish. In this race, he blew up before the event even began, and that's how his career flamed out. After that race, Wong was fired from McReynolds Family Racing for the stunningly awful performances that he had. Quickly after that, Wong was popped in a drug test and immediately was suspended from the NSDCA. Not a word about Wong has been said ever since, and he's fallen completely into obscurity. A short but pathetic career in the NSDCA squarely puts Wong into the 10th spot on the top 10 worst drivers list. Don't worry, folks, it's only gonna get worse from here. Number 9. Benjamin Coles. Coles is another young driver with everything to prove, and when I say everything, I really do mean everything. Coles ran full-time in the Dr. Pepper Dash series in Season 4, but you wouldn't know that if you were watching every week. Coles followed up his 26th place finish in the season opener at Homestead with an astonishing 5 consecutive failures to qualify in his Furniture Row Racing 78. When he finally managed to make a race in Nashville, he put up a blistering 23rd place effort. Now I will say that he picked up a 3rd place finish in the finale at Iowa, and I'm still not sure how that happened, but this finish may have been more of a curse than a blessing in the grand scheme of Cole's career. Coles was picked up to run the 22 truck as a starting park in the Kentucky Crown Royal Truck Series race at Kentucky the next year in Season 5. It was supposed to be a simple park it after 1 lap and collect winnings effort, but Coles somehow found a way to screw that up too, dumping Diego Yepes on the first lap of the race, destroying both Yepes and himself in the process. Wow! In half a lap, Coles managed to completely throw away all the positive momentum he had from his singular good finish in DPDS. That is impressively awful, and it puts him 9th on the top 10 worst drivers list. Number 8. Julio Caesar. The Brazilian Heat is a lot like Coles in his inability to qualify for races. There have been a lot of drivers over the years in the NSDCA that are completely incapable of qualifying, but Caesar stands a couple inches above the others with his impeccable 6 DNQs in Season 1 of Molson Modifieds. Now, to be fair, Caesar wasn't awful when he was actually capable of qualifying for races with 2 top 10s and a worst finish of 19th, but this massive magnitude of mediocrity followed him into DPDS, where he had a further 5 DNQs and a best finish of 13th. The below-average talent behind the wheel and difficult to work with personality outside of the car has found Caesar out of the NSDCA with no return in sight. If you're a team owner looking to waste your entry fees on a near-guaranteed DNQ, give Julio Caesar a call. Number 7. Caleb Henderson. Speaking of below-average talent, Caleb Henderson. The owner-driver attempted the full MDCS seasons in Seasons 2 and 3 and struggled from start to finish. In 24 attempts in his number 45, he failed to qualify in 11 of those starts. The story doesn't get any better from there. In the races Henderson did make, only 4 of them resulted in top 20s. He had one randomly good race at Road America with 8th, but beyond that, his only top 5s ever have come at Talladega, which I don't believe anyone can make the argument is a place where talent can truly be measured. In fact, his 3rd place at Talladega in Season 3 was his only finish better than 23rd all season. Wow! Henderson has also attempted CRTS events in his career, failing to qualify for most of these as well. Being a bottom half of the field driver for most of his career, Henderson's career took a turn for the worst for reasons that weren't even related to on-track events. After the MDCS Talladega race in Season 4, Henderson was one of the 3 drivers involved in an off-track accident that resulted in the death of Nicholas Wade. Henderson made a full recovery and attempted to make his return in the CRTS Daytona race, but as he had most of his career, it resulted in a DNQ. An underwhelming career that came to an end due to an incident that wasn't even during a race. That's rough. Number 6. Mathis Wells. This list is slowly becoming a who's who of drivers that were incapable of qualifying in the MDCS. If you want the primo example of this, look no further than Mathis Wells, who's been around in the NSDCA for a considerably long time and done considerably little in that time. Wells started out his career in Season 3 with a last place finish at Watkins Glen and 2 other sub-20th place efforts, but somehow managed to find a way to get 3rd at Iowa. I'm starting to believe that Iowa is cursed to give total scrub drivers good finishes. Anyway, that 3rd place was enough to get Wells a full-time deal with Butcher Gatorade Motorsports, which is an entirely decent team. Wells went on to attempt 24 starts in these 2 seasons in the 78 and came away with 14 DNQs. And if that's not enough, in the 10 races he did make, he only managed 4 top 20 finishes. One of those finishes was a 5th place at Gateway, and I'm still not sure how he managed to do that. Since these cataclysmically awful 2 seasons, Wells is still around in the NSDCA, driving for whatever he can to stay alive. I don't even want to know what went through the mind of the lunatic that put him in a cup car in Season 1. Amazingly, in what can only be described as a miracle, Wells came away with his first NSDCA win in Season 3 of Molson Modifieds in a photo finish with Hayden Mears at Oxford Plains. Maybe Wells has a chance to pull himself out of this list after all. Time will only tell, but for now, he resides on this list as the 6th worst driver of all time. Number 5. Caden Luca. Another elder statesman of the NSDCA is Caden Luca, who is always around, but never much more. Luca has been racing in MDCS since Season 2, and has always just kind of existed as a backmarker driver. It may come down to equipment, as Luca was an owner driver for his first 3 seasons, but regardless, the numbers don't lie. Luca is a perennial DNQ for the season opener at Daytona, but other than his 7 DNQs in the first seasons of the team existence, he's at least capable of qualifying into the field everywhere besides Daytona. What he does from there, however, is far from capable. In 41 attempts, Luca has a grand total of 3 top 10s, all of which coming at road courses. Now, being a road course ringer isn't an inherent problem, but being the worst of the road ringers is a problem. Luca also made 7 truck starts with more last place finishes than top 20s, and the only real highlights of his career are a miracle 5th place at Sonoma and blowing up from the lead at Old Spice. When the only real notable moments of your career involve you blowing up and finishing last, that's when you know that you are a total career backmarker. And that's bad enough for 5th on the top 10 worst drivers list. Number 4. Mitchell Collins. If you want an idea of just how much of a waste of space Mitchell Collins is, just think of him as an even worse Caden Luca. For all of Luca's failures, at least he's shown a minimal level of driving ability and promise at the road courses. Mitchell Collins, on the other hand, is unable to say that. While Collins hasn't been around as long as Luca, Collins' career best MDCS finish of 11th should say everything. In 33 MDCS attempts, Collins has failed to qualify for nearly half of them at 16! And when he does make the field, watch out, because you're not going to be seeing him on TV much unless it's in a wreck. In Season 3, Collins actually qualified for all 12 MDCS races, but despite this, finished 18th in points behind part-time teams. He followed that up the next year in Season 4 with a whopping 10 D&Qs in a 14-race season and 37th in points. That is hysterically awful. Red Bull Racing were way too generous keeping Collins as long as they did. Collins continues to disappoint into DPDS, where he took some of the best equipment in the field to a 14th place finish in points with a singular top 5 at Richmond. The only highlight of Collins' career comes at Nashville in Season 2 of Molson Modifieds, where he somehow, by an act of God, finished in second to Tristan Wilhoit. I don't know what else to say at this point. A career like Collins is only worth a 4th place on this list? You're telling me there's 3 worse drivers than that? Oh, come on, dude. Number 3. Zachary Fitzgerald Sr. Oh man, you hate to see it. The man from down under has been a mainstay of the NSDCA since his first season, and wow, where do we even begin? Fitzy looked like he had all the makings of a future star from the first season, with a few respectable runs in MDCS and a win at Mossport in the Truck Series for Onge Auto, making him one of only 2 drivers on this list who have won a race in the NSDCA. But it's all been downhill ever since that day. Fitzy followed up 19th in points in Season 1 of MDCS with 31st in Season 2 with a singular top 20 and 4 last place finishes. Even through all this, Fitzy showed flashes of speed in the Truck Series, but after the end of Season 2 is where all the positives come to an end. In 36 CRTS attempts in Seasons 3 and 4, Fitzy had 0 top 10s and 4 D&Qs. Oh, and don't forget about the Mountain Dew Custom Series, where he also attempted 2 full seasons, getting a whole 4 top 10s in 24 starts. Fitzy is driven primarily as an owner-driver throughout the majority of his career, which may be his ultimate downfall and what resulted in him landing on this list. Fitzwater Australia Racing started out as a promising team, but through mismanagement and general incompetence, the team has gone down the toilet in the blink of an eye. In fact, Fitzy's team is the only team in the last 7 seasons of the NSDCA's existence to be bailed out by the ownership apparatus for financial problems. But those financial problems continue to this day as Fitzy struggles to make it week by week. There's no question that Fitzy had potential from the beginning, and maybe in spite of this broken team management and perennial letdowns by him on the racetrack, there might still be a decent racer hidden behind all of it. Will Fitzy ever see his redemption? Probably not, because he retired. As for now, he sits squarely as the 3rd worst driver of all time. Number 2. Nicky Morris. An outsider would look at Nicky's stats and say, okay, he's definitely nothing special, but what puts him above Mitchell Collins or even Caleb Henderson, you may ask? I give you only 3 words. Season 4 Kansas. But we'll get to that in a minute. Nicky Morris is another cataclysmically awful Red Bull Racing driver who began his career in Season 4 of MDCS. His only top 10 of the year came at Iowa. Hey, where have we seen this before? And every other finish that year was 13th or worse. It resulted in a fat 22nd place in standings, and can you believe this is where the positives end? Morris's only MDCS attempt in Season 5 was a D&Q, and meanwhile he was sporadically making starts in the Crown Royal Truck Series, if he was, making the field. For some reason, Rockstar Energy Racing signed him on at the beginning of Season 3 for CRTS, and this would be a meteoric blunder, with Morris getting a best finish of 13th at Road America, but his next best finish was 23rd. He was fired after a whole 7 races and didn't make any more starts that season. Ever since this firing, Morris has come and gone from the racetrack, primarily gone as he's failed to qualify for most of the races he's attempted. He had a few top 5s early in his career, but as the years went on, he just completely fizzled out behind the wheel. Given these facts, what exactly puts him second on this list? Well, let me tell you a little bit about Season 4 of the Crown Royal Truck Series. Coming into the final race at Kansas, Peter Onjak and Jay Jefferson were neck and neck for the championship, with Onjak having a slight lead. It would all come down to the last event of the season, and the two were primed to put on a show for the ages at the final hour. And then Nicky Morris happened. Probably the least situationally aware driving in the history of the NSDCA, absolutely ruining a season-long battle between all-time greats in one indescribably boneheaded move. Combine this with years of failing to live up to expectations, mediocre runs, and a legacy of failure that will ring throughout the annals of history, Nicky Morris is the perfect candidate to be placed at the top of the list of the top 10 worst drivers of all time. So why is he only number 2? Number 1. Casey Mears. Casey Mears is everything wrong with the NSDCA today. He is an example of someone absolutely coasting their way through their career and getting rewarded for it every step of the way. Casey started his MDCS team in the garage of his house, which may seem like humble beginnings at first, until you realize he's been leeching off the success of Onjado and the other Dodge teams in the NSDCA from the very beginning. That's when you see Casey for what he truly is. He started out his MDCS career by failing to qualify for his first 2 races, and that should have been the almond everyone associated with the team needed to realize to stay far away. In 62 MDCS attempts, Casey has failed to qualify for 11 of those races. Now, 11 may not seem like a lot compared to a lot of the other drivers on this list, but the races he has made would make Casey wish he hadn't even qualified for those events to begin with. He got his first career top 10 at Iowa. Wow, imagine that! And went on to have a whole 10 top 10s over this 5-season-long career. In fact, in these 62 attempts, Casey's singular top 5 came at Old Spice, where we were miraculously saved from having to see this loser in victory lane. And don't think the sheer mediocrity is limited to MDCS. Casey, of course, has CRTS starts and Cup starts to his name, all of which were just as pathetically awful as his MDCS starts. In 16 CRTS attempts, he has 4 D&Qs and a best finish of 14th, and he almost has more top 5s and 11 Cup starts than he had in his entire MDCS career. Casey's mediocrity on track looks even more pathetic once you realize he's been in a tight affiliation with Onjado since Season 3 of MDCS. And if anything, his performance only got worse from there. It's made even more sad when Dylan Young, another candidate for this list, has begun to completely turn his career around after stepping into the car Casey drove for 5 seasons for Season 8. Casey and his team that's been leeching off Onjado from the beginning has started to spread its cancer further into Cup and CRTS, but we can be thankful Casey will not be behind the wheel for this adventure. The only thing Casey has going for him is his decision as a team owner in recent years, putting young drivers actually worthy of being behind the wheel into his cars, and even managing to deliver a win to Rose Henson in MDCS at Road America. Yeah, the one thing Casey can say now is that he's finally thrown his helmet in the trash where it belongs, and maybe he can finally start to develop actual talent in the NSDCA. But given the fact his doofus son has already silver spooned himself into a championship-level Molson Modified and DPDS team, we're going to be seeing the Mears name in the NSDCA for years to come. We can at least be thankful that it won't be Casey behind the wheel. Thank God he's never coming back.
We did not mention this pre-race, but with Rose Henson having a pretty big crash down here in this section of the track, the Mountain Dew Custom Series race, Kamikaze Motorsports has put their team boss, Casey Mears, in the 07 car.
Are you kidding me?